Hello, everybody. It's me, Valerie Monroe, and me, Bookwormy. And we are outside today on this beautiful day. You might be able to hear some birds chirping very loudly. A few minutes ago, there were some deer out here in the yard. It's just gorgeous. Oh, and we saw a chipmunk go by before. Also, we're under a tree that has those little helicopter things that are going to spin down. So they look like actually seeds. They look like that. Some of them might fall down on us while we're reading. But we're glad you're back here today to read more of Journey to Nagwanis. That's right. I think we're going to have a great time reading today. If you remember, Brogden was out on Six Raven Island and he had just met FInley, and they were talking about how they have to get off of Six Raven Island. That includes both of them and Che, the bird that has been held captive there with FInley. Chapter 7, Brogden learns the importance of FInley's cap. And remember, right now, they don't have FInley's cap. FInley had lost it, and then Brogden found it, but if you remember, he threw it at the skunk. So let's find out what's so important about it. True to its name, there were, in fact, 6 ravens on Six Raven Island, but Brogden quickly realized all 6 were not necessarily on the island at the same time. At any one point during the day, he noticed a few of them would fly off to scavenge for food, search for sticks to add to their nests, or practice aerobatics in the air. The only time all 6 were together was at night when they roosted in the trees. For 3 days, Brogden and FInley spoke of nothing else but their escape plan. One part of it, they decided, involved making use of Brogden's excellent raft building skills. So, during the hour when the ravens allowed them to exercise outside, they scavenged for twigs and branches and piled them up outside the door. Luckily, the ravens did not pay much attention to these activities. In fact, the birds appeared generally uninterested in the trio, confident that their prisoners had no means of escape. FInley collected long, stringy stems of bladderworts that grew close to shore, and Che, who was very dexterous, tied Brogden's twigs together with the bladderwort stems in neat, strong knots with his claws and his beak. The raft grew by a few inches each day. At one point, FInley and Brogden had a heated discussion over how large the raft ought to be. It had to be large enough to hold them both and the box that contained the amber rose. But they disagreed over whether Che should sit on the raft as well. He weighed almost 3 pounds. In the end, they decided they would tie Che to the raft so that he could flap alongside them. It would almost be like having a sail. It was the best solution they could think of. Brogden and FInley did come to an agreement on how best to escape. The plan was to wait for a windy day and take off in the middle of the night while the ravens were sleeping. They would also wait for the new moon so that they would not be visible should one of the ravens suddenly awaken. And you know, new moon is the phase where we don't see any moon at all. It took 2 weeks for the perfect opportunity to present itself. On that day, the 6 ravens took to the treetops to roost at sundown. A family of visiting crows were spending the night in the tree with them. The birds chattered amongst themselves for hours. Brogden and FInley thought they were never going to go to sleep. At exactly midnight, one of the youngest crows asked the eldest to recite the famous poem called The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. As the recitation of the poem progressed and each stanza ended with the nevermore, all of the birds began to chime in, each time louder than before. They became so rowdy that one of the island's old tortoises came out of its burrow and hollered at them to settle down because other animals were trying to get a decent night's sleep. Finally, the birds did likewise and were soon snoring away. As luck would have it, the sky was pitch black because of a new moon that evening, and there was a slight breeze in the air. Brogden had stuffed some of Che's oiled feathers into the catch of the lock so that the door of their small room would open noiselessly, and then the two tiptoed to the shore where they had hidden the raft amongst some rushes. Brogden climbed aboard first, followed by Finley, who was carrying the box with the amber rose. Che nudged the raft into the water with his beak and then deftly secured one of his claws to it with a bladderwort stem. He rose into the air by flapping his emerald green wings and pulled the raft easily, which was lucky because they had not been able to find any materials that would have functioned as oars. When Che got tired, he simply extended his wings to their full span, and they filled like sails with the breezes. Not one of them looked back as they left Six Raven Island. It had been an unspoken agreement between Brogden and Finley that no matter how dangerous it was, they would return to the southernmost point of Lake Wahakmo because the entrance to the tunnel that led to Nagwanis was there. Once on shore, they would offer Che the choice of flying away or remaining with them. Brogden and Finley spoke very little during the journey. Most of the sounds were small splashes against the raft, which proved to be quite sturdy, and the soft whoosh of Che's wings. The parrot seemed thrilled that he was back in the air once again. Finley clutched the box with the amber rose to his chest, and Brogden squinted in the darkness. He hoped they were heading in the right direction. When they were a safe distance from Six Raven Island, Finley whispered, "Brogden, there's something that's troubling me. A very great trouble indeed." "Something other than being on a raft in the middle of Lake Wahakmo, floating toward the very place where we were blinded and kidnapped," said Brogden. "Yes, there is something else. I am reluctant to bring it up, but being a gnome, I must." "Okay, what is it?" "My cap, you see. I must try to get it back." Brogden looked at him confusedly. "Your cap? I thought I told you I threw it at the skunk guard in an effort to distract him. He never tossed it back. For all I know, he's wearing it at this moment." "That is true, and I don't place any blame on you for the circumstances regarding its current location," Finley said. "Well, okay, that's good," Brogden replied, "because I didn't Hey, now hold up just a minute. You lost your cap ages before that, back when you climbed out of the rabbit's den. It was only through sheer luck that I recognized it and got it back anyway." "But that's just the thing," Finley insisted. "I had given it up for lost. And then you found it. And then you lost it again." Brogden thought Finley was beginning to sound just a bit whiny. "Might I remind you that all of my actions with regard to your cap and otherwise have been to help you, to aid in the delivery of the amber rose, to assist you in returning to your wife and child, to restore your family name?" Brogden was finding it hard to keep his voice to a whisper. Whether it was the large splashing wave that rocked the small raft from side to side, or the look of irritation on Brogden's face, the gnome realized it was not a good idea to have a confrontation in the middle of a lake in the dark of night on a small vessel. "Let me begin," Finley said, deciding now that it would be best to sound earnest and contrite. "I am extremely grateful for all you have done for me thus far, bringing news of my wife and newborn babe and rescuing me from the bondage of the ravens. However, please understand, caps are particularly significant to gnomes. We are very unlike house dwellers who often have many caps. Our caps individualize us. We receive our caps when we are youngsters, and we keep the same ones for our whole lives. They conform to the heads." To put it plainly, he looked pleadingly at Brogden. "I am really not much of a gnome without my cap. So as you must guess, I must recover my cap upon our arrival on shore. I must. I simply cannot deliver the amber rose to Umbus without it." Brogden looked at Finley as though he had 4 heads instead of 1 head with no cap. "Are you out of your mind?" he said, incredulously. "Out of your mind?" repeated Che. "I cannot see taking the risk," Brogden went on. "Your main focus must be on delivering the amber rose and returning home. Surely you can make another cap. As far as appearing foolish before other gnomes, you can explain your unfortunate situation, and I'm sure they'll understand. I will vouch for you and take the blame for your missing cap, but I cannot bear the thought of going near that skunk again." Even though he had applied the juice of several tomatoes to his body and his hair, it had taken Brogden days to rid himself of the odor of the skunk spray. At times, he felt like he could still smell it. Finley shook his head. You don't understand. I don't want to have to disclose this information, but seeing as you are not grasping the seriousness of recovering my cap, I have no other choice. You see, he leaned in close to Brogden and whispered into his ear, my cap has a power. When I'm wearing it, I can become invisible. Finley leaned back again and allowed Brogden to consider this new information carefully. We still have a long journey ahead of us, Brogden thought, traveling safely to and from Nagwanis. And the rabbits had said something about a troll being on the loose. It might not be the worst idea if one of them could become invisible, he figured. In fact, being invisible might come in right handy. He looked gravely at Finley. If you can retrieve your cap without getting us all sprayed and incarcerated by the ravens again, then you're welcome to try. But Che and I will wait for you from a safe distance away. Finley mumbled to himself for the remainder of the journey as he planned how to get his cap back. Brogden, meanwhile, concentrated on directing Che to the right landing spot on the shore. He wanted to moor the raft beyond the skunk's checkpoint, so he steered eastward. Above all else, he did not want to do anything that would bring attention to themselves. The landing had to be smooth. When they were perhaps 20 feet away, Brogden saw the large compass rose sign indicating that they were at the southernmost end of Lake Wahakmo. Then they began discussing what they would do with the amber rose, while Finley retrieved his cap. Brogden was adamant that he take charge of the box, as it would be a tragedy if it were lost in a scuffle while Finley was trying to get the cap back. Finley didn't seem thrilled with this idea, but he finally conceded, and the plan was set by the time the raft bumped softly onto shore. According to their now thoroughly discussed plan, only Finley would disembark at this point. Che and Brogden would continue eastward, sticking close to land. Finley would sneak up on the skunk guard, whisk his cap away, and place it on his own head. Once he became invisible, he would hustle over the rocks and boulders until he caught up with the raft. Then they would dock close to the path to Nagwanis. After that, they would set off to complete the delivery. The plan was foolproof, they all decided. Good luck, whispered Brogden as Finley disembarked. Good luck, repeated Che. I hope I won't need it, Finley whispered back. But thank you all the same. And that's where we'll stop for today. I sure hope he doesn't get sprayed by the skunk again. That would stink. Yeah, that would really stink. But we'll find out tomorrow if he gets his cap back and if they begin the journey to Nagwanis. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow.